Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I move that the House record its deep regret at the death on 29 March 2023 of the Honourable Stewart John West, a former minister and member of this House for the division of Cunningham from 1977 to 1993. Place on record its appreciation of his meritorious public service and tender its sympathy to his family in their bereavement.
And I call the Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, try to imagine this scene. It's Wollongong in the early 1980s. Picture a kitchen table in a council house in the suburb of Berkeley, just below the splendour of the Illawarra escarpment. And hard at work at that table is Stewart West, a former branch president of the Waterside Workers Union turned member for Cunningham and Shadow Environment Minister. Maybe he's working in silence, as he often preferred. Maybe the radio's tuned into a horse race. And spread before him is the environmental policy that Labor will take to its national conference. At its heart is saving Tasmania's Franklin River. 40 years later, as a direct result of that policy taken by Stewart West, the Franklin still flows wild and free. What a profound mark to make as a shadow minister. When the 1983 election lifted him out of the shadow and into power, Stewart West went on to serve with distinction as a cabinet minister in the Hawke Government, holding the immigration, housing and administrative affairs portfolios. It was by any measure an extraordinary time in an extraordinary government, and Stewart was an important part of it. His passion for the environment, spanning the continent from Tasmania to Kakadu, was as powerful as his commitment to serve the people of Cunningham. In his beloved Wollongong, he was central in saving the steel industry and in expanding the university. He was instrumental in reforming Australia's immigration policy and remained vocal about the plight of refugees long after his political career came to a close. And he was willing to put his money where his mouth was. Stewart was a politician of unbending principle, one who cherished the privilege of being in cabinet, but nonetheless prioritised principle over career. And it was a choice that he had to make along the way, resigning from cabinet over a matter of principle. No one joins the Labor Party for a smooth ride or a quiet life. It's not our nature. People are passionate about doing what's best for our country, but while we generally agree on the destination, there are sometimes powerful differences of opinion on how to get there. So it was when Stewart quit Cabinet over uranium policy. As our great mutual friend Tommy Wren would later record, I've never seen anyone so broken-hearted for so long as Stewart over that decision. But such was the calibre of the man that the Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, soon brought him back into the fold and restored his position in the Cabinet. Over many years, I was proud to sit beside Stewart West at ALP national conferences. I was proud to stand alongside him to improve the lives of working Australians, and I'm grateful for the advice that he gave me as a young man and for the lessons that he taught me. I'm honoured to speak now of his achievements. Stewart died just 2 days short of his 89th birthday, but his legacy and all that he was remains with us. Our hearts go out to his loving wife Mary and to all of his family, to all who loved his company and his laughter, and to all who held a special place in his heart, particularly the great people of the great city of Wollongong. May Stewart West rest in peace.
I call the Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I join with the Prime Minister in honouring the life of the Honourable Stewart John West. Stewart was a Labor man through and through. He lived and breathed Labor ideals. Prior to entering Parliament, he was a lifelong trade unionist. He was the President of the Port Kembla branch of the Waterside Workers Federation, and he served as the Secretary of the ALP's Cunningham Federal Electorate Council. And he was the successful campaign manager for the formidable Rex Connor for 5 elections. As the recipient of Rex's mentorship, Stewart was, of course, his inevitable successor. After Rex's sudden passing in 1977, Stewart was swept into office with 56% of the vote at the Cunningham by-election. In his maiden speech, Stewart spoke proudly about the electorate he knew so well, an electorate which was now his to represent. He described it as the greatest industrial and steel-producing centre in the nation, and he spoke passionately about the concerning issue of unemployment, describing it as a cancer bedevilling Cunningham. Indeed, unemployment there was more than 3% above the national average. Under Bill Hayden's opposition, Stewart was appointed the shadow spokesperson for Aboriginal affairs, then environment and conservation, then finance and trade. In the spirit of social movements, he lent his support to those who campaigned to prevent the building of Tasmania's Franklin River Dam and to protect Kakadu. Stewart's environmental concerns, coupled with the shadow of Cold War, saw him become an energetic exponent for nuclear non-proliferation. At an ALP national conference in mid-1982, the party was split on the stance a future Labor government should adopt on uranium mining. The famous Hogg Amendment sought to change the party position from an immediate ban on uranium mining to one supporting its phasing out over time. Stewart spoke fiercely against the motion, which narrowly passed. He emerged from the conference despondent and near to tears, as one reporter wrote. Indeed, it was Stewart's convictions on this issue which saw him later resign from a cabinet position in 1983 after Bob Hawke's Labor government decided to sell uranium to France. Whether one agrees with Stewart's position or not, no one can not deny he was a man of great courage and that he put his convictions ahead of his own career. No doubt there was something Bob Hawke admired in Stewart's character and integrity. Not just that, but his upbringing, the way that he'd been styled, the way that he contributed to debates. For in 1984, the Prime Minister reappointed Stewie, as he called him, to the Cabinet, and under Hawke's leadership, Stewart served as the Minister for Immigration and Ethnic Affairs, then Housing and Construction, and finally Administrative Services. As Immigration Minister, he championed family reunion and the resettlement of refugees while being a strong advocate for anti-discrimination. A leader of the left faction of the Labor Party, Stewart found it difficult to manoeuvre in Bob Hawke's cabinet dominated by the right faction. Stewart John West was certainly that calibre of politician who never saw popularity or promotion as worthy of selling out one's principles. And in many ways, it's the politicians of principle which history tends to remember. On behalf of the Coalition, I offer my heartfelt condolences to Stewart's colleagues, to his community and friends and to his family. May he rest in peace.
As a mark of respect to the member of the Honourable Stewart John West, I ask all present to rise in their places. I thank the House and I call